A Japanese car built for Americans who can't wipe themselves. 2002 Mitsubishi Galant V6. What a heap. 3 liters of disappointment for your dad and his friend James. Dad and retired Lieutenant Commander James drive to Willow Grove and dock in the bathroom. The good old don't ask days. Bush. Mitsubishi Galant. The official car of lip-injected mothers who treat GameStop as a free daycare center. Galant V6. Brought to you by headline-reading, weather-commenting, open-mouth coughing, soda-hydrating, mean-talking, non-thought gooners whose favorite song is the Pornhub drum fill. Mitsubishi Galant. About 12 feet of mediocrity for people who swallow their gum. For drivers whose favorite Waylon Jennings song is Cotton Eye Joe. The Galant didn't always used to be this dollop of sadness and resignment. It used to be a tight, small E30-esque sports sedan for people who wanted the feel of an Evo, but wanted to stay low-key about it. But by this generation, the Galant ballooned up to be this Baron Harkonnen-sized rhino for Americans who wouldn't know what a sports sedan was if Colin McRae pressed one up under their gooch.
If the engine goes, then it's sporty.
Well, the 6G72 single cam does exactly that. All 190 horsepower and 205 pound-feet of torque of it.
The engine's making noise. Wow, Daddy. Daddy with tattoos on his fingers. Wow, this car is fast. I can't wait to live with you and your grandmother in her house.
The Galant's fall from enthusiast grace was twofold. Number 1, Mitsubishi wanted something to catch the sloppy thirds after Toyota Camrys and Honda Accords had their way with American consumers. So they rolled out a new, bigger Galant and strutted back in front of the Honda dealerships with a wad of $100 bills and a box of monster condoms. Oh, whoops, I dropped my 000 deal that I use for my Magnum Dong. And that brings us to number 2, the 000 deal. If you're old enough, you might remember the commercial. 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for XXX months. Mitsubishi was doing in 2002 what essentially Nissan is doing now. You can't compete with Toyota and Honda with quality, so you have to undercut them. Well, Mitsubishi went one further and rolled out a big promotion where you could lease a car without any money. The problem with the 000 promotion was it wasn't giving customers, let's say, 3 free months or whatever with the car. It just deferred their monthly payments for that long. And then, once that time period was up, all that money came due. And this fine print was exactly that. It wasn't like the finance department was articulating and speaking in easy-to-understand language before those men of constant sorrow signed their forms. I hope you had a great time here at Kunkelman Mitsubishi, Mr. Merton Aloysius. Before you sign and drive off in your new Mitsubishi Galant for 0 down, 0 interest, 0 whatever, I want you to know that, here, if you're going to drool, just drool into this potted plant. You're going to have to start saving your money now, like right now, because you're going to get a bill later, and it's going to be very big. And if you don't pay it, a tow truck will come and take our car back. Yes, it's not your car until you pay it all off. Legally, it's the property of the finance department and the bank until you pay back all the money. That is what the finance department should have said. Of course, you won't move units being a salesperson like that. And what happened was a lot of rubes couldn't pay that first air chisel of a bill once the 000 promotion ran out. So the market began to be flooded by repoed Galants back at dealerships, now worth less because they're used, on top of no payments. Toyotas are overpriced, with less features and amenities than other brands. But that doesn't hurt sales because customers know that with correct maintenance, their Camry will last 30 years. So it's cheaper in the long run to own one, but you can only do that if you have the money to buy or make payments on a Toyota that is owned by a company that rarely runs deals. The wealthy can afford to buy quality, and even when presented with a lot full of discounted Galants, they will not buy them. They will buy the car that earned their reputation. But lower economic rungs don't have that freedom or the ability to follow meticulous maintenance. So those lots of repoed Galants were bought by people who needed to stretch oil changes to 6,000, 8,000, 9,000 miles. They needed to pour stop leak in the oil, deal with cracked bushings instead of replacing them, painting over rust, pop riveting salvaged metal over rot, replacing taillights with ones that don't match, pouring 1 quart of oil in every 1,000 miles, using a Nerf football as a wad of Bondo filler.
Did you say structural foam football?
Yes.
Okay.
Here, let me see if Oh, yeah, right down here. You see it? It's blue. There's a foam football shoved in there.
Damn. And they're just like bondoed around it or spray painted around it?
Spray foam.
Nice.
Yeah, the rockers are like that.
Oh,
This
something
one's
fell off
actually
when you
still
did.
solid.
More of it fell off when you did that.
Well, this is all rattle canned. You could tell like it's a little bulged in some areas on the rocker.
Yeah.
Spray foam.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Great. Sports exhaust. Great. You can't afford required maintenance, but you found enough copper on the ground to meet someone at Sheetz and buy their DC sports exhaust. Mitsubishi Galant. Please don't talk about your tax refund within earshot of your Mitsubishi Galant. It will hear you and it will decide it needs a new suspension. What even is this car? I know what it's supposed to look like. I know what it's supposed to do, but driving this 4-speed slushbox transmission is... You know the phrase piss up a rope? Like, oh, go to hell, dude? Because the idea is you can't piss upward without getting it on yourself. I think I'd actually have an easier time pissing up a rope than staying dry getting anything worthwhile out of this F4A51 transmission. Forums say these are known for flare-ups between second and third, but they aren't frequent enough to matter in most Galants. And when you're making preemptive excuses for a car's functionality, you know you can basically have the automotive equivalent of that U2 album that got uploaded to everybody's iTunes account without their permission. Here's a thing you're not gonna like, but you're stuck with it. So here's why that's not such a bad thing. Mitsubishi Galant. The meth isn't gonna make itself. This is the car you get when you think Vector Corporation is a legitimate career path. This is a car you buy when you live in a town that's lost its coal mine and never moved on. Now the town is overrun with dropouts robbing the same convenience store every 3 months. And you're stuck working at the textiles and insert phobia factory. Congratulations. Your manager is a guy whose birth certificate is just an apology from the state for outlawing a woman's right to choose. And his boss is a guy whose IQ is matched only by the cost of a jawbreaker from a gumball machine. I've been to Centralia, Pennsylvania. That town is in better shape than this car. And yet, the car is weirdly fascinating. Like a fist fight breaking out at an HOA meeting, you can't look away from it. It's a car whose history dates back to 1969, when it was known as the Colt Galant, with a design called Dyna Wedge. It was a pretty accurate name, because it sort of looked like a tipped-over wedge salad with wheels. It was compact, aerodynamic, and it was predictive of the import boom ahead, or at least the small car revolution prior to the 1970s oil crisis. This would be a competitor to the Nissan Bluebird, the Toyota Corona, and the Honda Accord, although the United States wouldn't get it until 1971, when Chrysler brought it over here, and essentially made this the first Mitsubishi sold in the States. And while it did go through significant design changes over the next 6 or 7 generations to keep up with contemporary automotive design, it still maintained the aspects of that wedge appearance. That is, until this 8th generation here. You could argue it's still... any sort of wedge shape is gone, and this is just like someone mated a Corolla with a Nissan Altima. That might as well have been the case anyway, since Nissan owns some 34% as part of the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance, but that was back in 2016. We're talking about 2002. And this Galant is no Eclipse. It's no Lancer. It's not a VR4 for sure. This is the ES trim for exceptionally Andrew told us about some of the things wrong with this car, and God bless him, he's a hell of a guy to put up with what he has. In fact, if there are 2 positive things I can say about this, it's that 1, its 23 miles per gallon is better than the fuel economy of my 4Runner, and 2, this is still running at all. The passenger side suspension is shot, either because someone used it as some kind of hauler against all common sense, or the person riding shotgun was on the heavier side of the presidential scale. More Howard Taft than Honest Abe. The rear passenger window is the only one that works, so if it gets hot, you better hope that one window is enough to keep you cool. Needs a new sway bar link. It also needs a full timing kit. But Andrew is keeping this around as a work beater rather than a daily. It's pure utility. The kind of car you don't care about because any day could be its last. It's perpetually 3 days from retirement. It's got one foot in the grave and the other on a linoleum floor after the orgy. Andrew bought this car for $500 and it looks like a $500 car because this used to be not street legal. It was used as a gopher car in a strip mine. That is so Pennsylvania. I mean, look at the back seats. You just see the circles of the 5-gallon buckets of rocks or whatever that people just put in the back. Or, you know, the guy whose toolbox is just a chlorine bucket. I love that guy. Andrew says he gets hassled by the police because he just looks like a dirtbag in this. Of course, a previous owner had to tint the windows, so that makes it worse. He told the story about the last time he got pulled over because your tail light is out. And he said, well, I got a nice pry bar right here. I can hold down the brake pedal and we can both go around to the back of the car and see that both taillights are working. And he knew full well that the officer was just sniffing. Obviously, someone driving a car like this is up to no good. And to make things funnier, the only window that works is the rear passenger, so he can't roll down his window when the officer comes up to ask for your license and registration. Like, sorry, you gotta open the door, we gotta do things through that window because that's the only one that works. Andrew isn't trying to wear this like a suit of armor. It's just a work beater. On one hand, you could argue that it's not worth to spend this type of money on something that's likely to die on you at any moment. But at the risk of triggering an existential crisis, that's true of any one of us. Like Homer Simpson once said, why, you could wake up dead tomorrow. I don't think a Mitsubishi Galant is worth the effort to keep going for what it would cost, even if you were to do all the repairs yourself. But there's a certain level of respect that goes hand in hand with anybody who starts from a scrap heap like this and keeps it running, against all the odds. The Galant is not a great car. It's the end of the line for a great beginning, but a sad denouement.
For everything.
Yeah, well, the whole front end, like, one of the biggest surprises I came up on in it is that the control arm bushings on both sides are still in perfect condition.
Whoa.
They're not cracked or nothing. But you would think, like, being oil saturated, they'd be breaking apart, but no.
Accelerates fine. There's no shifts like butter. It's not pulling to either side.
It used to until I did that ball joint. And the funny thing is, I still have not gotten an alignment since I did that. It just drives straight now.
Awesome.
So I said, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah.
But you could smell that it leaks oil on the manifold.